Hey everybody, Jake here for American Muscle, and in this video we're taking a look at the Petters Sports Rider Easy Fit Spring and Shock Kit fitting 2015 and newer Mustangs without MagneRide. If you're after that lowered look, improved handling, or maybe a nice combination of both in an easy to install package, the Petters Sports Rider kit we have here today is going to be just right for your car. This kit is great for a street driven car or daily driver that needs to maintain good ride quality but have the chops to back up the aggressive stance. I have said it plenty, but I love a good suspension upgrade. It can make a huge difference in how your car rides and handles. Sometimes, however, the ride gets compromised for the sake of performance, or the effort that it takes to install the whole thing just isn't worth the result. Not so with this kit we have here. Petters has assembled a setup that strikes a great balance of ride and handling. And it's easy to install too, hence the name. With a matched set of shocks and springs, the ride quality you expect from a big muscle car is maintained. But this is also going to lower your Mustang about 30 millimeters or just over 1 inch front and rear. So you'll get a slightly lower, more aggressive stance. It's just going to look cool. It won't be so low that speed bumps or potholes become a huge problem, but it's just enough for a nice visual update. Now, lowering your car also means that the center of gravity is physically lower to the ground, which means handling will be improved as well. And that is the other goal here: improved handling. The shock and spring combination we have here is designed to quell body motions and keep your car controlled and planted through the turns. So initial turn in is going to be sharper, and you'll be able to really make the Mustang dance with this kit on there. Now, the other benefit to this kit is that it's really quite easy to install. The front struts, as you can see, come pre-assembled, ready to go right out of the box. So these can just bolt right in, and the rear shocks and springs go in easily as well. It's a nice turnkey type of solution that just makes the benefits you get that much sweeter in the long run. Everything here is of good quality as well. You get large diameter aluminum shock bodies with chromed hardened piston rods inside, and that's both for the rear and for the front as well. You just can't see it in the front because everything comes pre-assembled. Now the springs, again, both front and rear, are made from high tensile strength steel, and everything is topped off in this nice bright red powder coat for good looks and added protection. Now, as we were talking about before, the front struts do come fully assembled. You've got new bump stops, gaiters, and top hats already installed and ready to go right out of the box, again making this really easy to install. But we'll talk more about that momentarily. Pricing comes in at about $950 for the kit, and for something like this, I'd say it's a pretty good value for your money. There's a lot to like here, especially the fact that you get improved performance without a punishing ride to go along with it. So you're after a great balance and a good value, this kit has got to be on your shopping list. Installation is going to get a 2 out of 3 on our difficulty meter, and the job should take you around 3 hours to complete. Now, you are going to have to do some disassembly, especially to get the front struts out, but nothing needs to be modified, and once you've got all the stock parts out, all this new stuff is going to bolt right back in its place. Really doesn't get much easier than that when it comes to suspension upgrades. Now, all that said, let's head on out to the shop and we'll walk you through the process.
Tools required for this install include a couple different size impact guns, an electric ratchet, a pass-through ratchet, a standard ratchet, a 6mm Allen wrench, a pair of vice grips, a marker, clip remover tool, flathead screwdriver, 6, 11, and 17mm wrenches, 18 and 21mm ratcheting wrenches, a hammer, 13 and 15mm swivel sockets, a swivel adapter, a couple different size extensions, a 15mm and a 13/16 pass-through socket, 8, 10, 13, 15, 18, 21, 24mm sockets, a pry bar, a caliper hook, pole jacks or jack stands, and a spring compressor. What's up, guys? Today we're installing some suspension on our Mustang, so let's get started. So starting with the front, we're gonna remove our sway bar end link from the bracket on our strut. Now, right behind this bracket, there's a nut that you can get a 17mm wrench on to hold, while you get an 18mm socket on the nut on the front, and pull that off. And then you can pull down on your sway bar and pop your end link out. And I'm just gonna throw the nut back on there for now. Next, we can grab a clip remover tool to pop these 2 clips off. Next, we're gonna have to remove our brake caliper to get to the 2 nuts on our strut. So we'll take a 15mm socket to remove our 2 bolts. Now we can slide our caliper off. I've got a caliper hook up here that we can hook our caliper to keep it up and out of the way. And now with our caliper removed, we can just pop our rotor off to give us a little extra space. Next, we can take a 24mm socket and remove these 2 nuts. Now we're gonna hold the other side with a 21mm wrench while we do this. And now with our nuts removed, we can take a hammer and smack these bolts to knock them out of place. I'm going to start with the bottom one here. Now I'm going to take an extension on the other side to tap these bolts the rest of the way through. Next, we can go in the engine bay and take a 15mm socket to remove our 3 upper strut nuts. Now you're going to want to have one hand underneath supporting the weight of the strut as you remove these. And now with 1 nut left, I've got one hand supporting the weight of the strut while we take this last nut off. And then we can slide our strut out. So now we're ready to install our new strut. So we're gonna raise this up, get our upper mount into place, and then we'll just hand thread on those 3 nuts for now. Now next we can reconnect our knuckle to our strut. And then we can take a hammer to tap these bolts through. And then we can thread our 2 nuts on the other side. And then we'll grab our 24mm socket to tighten these down. Next, we can reinstall our sway bar end link. Thread our nut on there. And our 18mm socket to tighten it down. Next, we can reinstall our brake rotor. And then we'll throw a lug nut on here to hold it in place. Next, we can come back up to the top of our strut tower and take a 15mm socket to tighten down our 3 nuts. And now we can slide our brake caliper back over the rotor and reinstall our 2 bolts. And now we can take our 15mm swivel socket and tighten these down. Now the last thing we need to do is reconnect our 2 clips. And then you can repeat that whole process on the other side. Now moving on to the rear, we're gonna start with our upper shock mount. We have two 18mm bolts, so we'll grab an 18mm socket to pull out. Next, we can come to the bottom of our lower control arm to remove these two 15mm bolts holding our shock in. So I'll take a 15mm socket, I'm gonna pull this first one out, and I'm gonna take a hand to grab onto the shock before I pull the second out. And then we can fully remove our shock. Next, we can take a 13mm socket to remove our brake line bracket. Next, we can take a 10mm socket to remove this bolt holding our brake line bracket in. And then we're going to be undoing our end link up here. So we'll take an 18mm ratcheting wrench and a 6mm Allen wrench to pop that nut off. Then we can pop this bracket off, pop our end link out of place. And I'm just gonna throw this bracket and the nut back on so we don't lose it. So now to get our springs out, we're gonna have to lower our rear subframe. So I've got a couple of pole jacks supporting the subframe on each side. We've got a bracket with two 13mm bolts and a 21mm bolt that we're gonna loosen up, as well as a 21mm bolt in the back. We're gonna do the whole thing on the other side. We're gonna drop it at the same time to get our springs out. So now we're coming to this bracket here. We're gonna remove these two 13mm bolts first with a 13mm socket. And then we're gonna switch to a 21mm socket. We're just gonna loosen this for now. We're not gonna fully remove it yet. Next, we can move back to the bolt that's right in front of our muffler. You're gonna need an extension for this one. Same 21mm socket, and we'll loosen this up. So now I went and replicated those steps on the other side. We have those bolts loosened up. So now we're gonna start with this side. We can fully remove these two bolts and then start lowering this side of the subframe down to get our spring out. So now we can start lowering our pole jack until we have enough slack to get our spring out. So now I'm going to use a pry bar to help me pop this spring off. So now we're ready to install our new spring. So we're gonna grab our factory rubber spring isolator and slide that on to the top of our spring. And then we can slide this into place. Now I'm just gonna guide the spring into place with my hand as I raise up the pole jack. And we'll get it just so that it sits firmly in place. Next, we can reinstall our subframe bracket. We're gonna get our two smaller bolts threaded in first. And then we can grab a pry bar to push backwards on our subframe to line up our hole through our bushing. And we're just gonna get that a few threads in for now, and then we'll install the back, leave it a little loose so that we can do the other side. And now we'll slide our rear bolt in, thread that in a few threads, and now you're gonna repeat that same process on the other side. So now with the other side caught up to this side, you can go ahead and start tightening everything down. We're gonna start with these two 13mm bolts. You're gonna match these bolts up to the imprints left from the bolts. I'm gonna thread these in by hand and match them up, and then we can go back and tighten them down. Then we take a 13mm socket, tighten them up. Now you can switch over to your 21. You might need to take the pry bar, just get the pry forward, backward on your subframe to get it to line up. And then same thing with this big bolt, just match those hardware impressions and tighten it down. And now same thing on the rear. Once you've lined up your bolt marks, you can tighten that down. Then you'll do that same thing on the other side. So now we need to transfer over some parts from our factory shock to our new one. We're going to take off this mounting plate as well as our sleeve and our bump stop and transfer them over to our new one. So now I'm going to take a flathead screwdriver to get under our cover here so that we can pop that off. And then that exposes our nut. We'll take a 15mm socket to pop that off. And then we're going to pop off our mounting bracket as well as our boot. We've got our bump stop inside. And then we can slide our new shock onto there. Now we'll slide our mounting bracket on. We have a new nut with the shock, so we'll pop that on. Grab our 15mm socket to get those threads started. And then we're going to be using a 15mm pass-through socket on a pass-through ratchet. And once we have that started, we can grab the top of our stud with a 6mm wrench. Now with our nut tightened down, we can reinstall our cap. And you can do the same thing for your other shock and we can get these back on the car. So now we can install our new shock. So slide it into place. I'm going to get these bottom bolts started first. And then we'll line up our shock. And then we can get our top two bolts started. Now we can take our 18mm socket and tighten our two top bolts down. And then while we're up here, we may as well reinstall our brake line bracket. So we'll thread in that 13mm bolt. And then we'll take our 13mm socket to tighten it down. And now we'll come underneath and tighten down our bottom two bolts. Now we can reinstall our sway bar end link and our bracket for our brake line. And now we'll grab our 18mm ratcheting wrench and 6mm Allen wrench and tighten down that nut. And then we can take our 10mm socket to tighten down our brake line bracket. And then you can repeat that same process on the other side. So that'll wrap up this review and install of the Petters Sports Rider Easy Fit Spring and Shock Kit for your 2015 and newer Mustang without MagnaRide. Thank you for watching, and for all things Mustang, keep it right here at AmericanMuscle.com.